There it is. Oh, that was a good one. It was crunchy. It was a nice little crunch.
Satisfying.
Yeah, yeah, very, very satisfying. And Chris, what kind of a beer do we have today? Do you have a non Super Bowl beer? Do you
Well,
have a FUMFA Bowl beer?
well, if New England was in the Super Bowl, I guess it would work. But it's called Oh New England.
Ooh, New England.
Oh New
I
England.
love that name. Does it
Yep, and that's a Connecticut. It's Hanging Hills Brewing Company. It's and the Thimble Island Brewing Company, Branford, Connecticut.
How nice. Thimble Island in Branford. That is on the way to Ender's Island. Well, if you're coming from
Yes,
Norwalk. If you're coming from
right
where
on
I
that.
live.
Right there near Guilford.
Yes.
The Fords, the Guilford, the Branford,
Yeah, and the
the
Fords. The
Fords.
Fords. You're past the ports into the Fords, going east from New York City.
It,
Yeah.
that is
Very
it.
good.
Yep.
Fabulous. Well, does it taste like New England,
It does
Chris?
taste like New England. It tastes crisp, a little a little sharp, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
slightly edgy,
Yeah,
in that,
absolutely.
in that New England sort of um,
That that
that
sort of like crisp, that crisp New England,
that Puritan way, that sort of
that, I know,
that kind of
that
Catherine Hepburn,
Yankee sort of way.
Catherine Hepburn kind of vibe, sort of like. Oh, there's mom.
Hey, she said, "We're here, no Super Bowl."
I see
Yes.
him. Wow, you guys are hardcore.
Absolutely, we are, and we're expecting our other pals tonight to join us in
Yeah.
here to forsake the first half of the Super Bowl or
You
even
think
the
you,
whole thing and
you think your
enjoy.
dad's in the other room watching the Super Bowl? Is he?
No, my dad is definitely watching us right now.
Nice.
Definitely more of a
You
literature
got
guy.
the best parents.
Yes, the best parents indeed. Hey, mom
I'm
and
going to be
dad.
adopted. Cheers.
Cheers, cheers. And Mark Danowski says, I'm just glad it's not Sam Adams.
Oh, Sam Adams.
No,
Sam
Sam.
Adams is very 1995, maybe.
1995. What's 1995 about Sam Adams? I mean,
That's when Sam Adams was cool. It's like
okay.
Sam Adams was new. It was like, ooh, Sam Adams. Ooh, that's like a cool local beer.
That's a cool local beer.
And now it's like you just
Whatever, Sam
walk
Adams.
down the street and you find a local beer.
That's so funny. Well, I've been, enjoying my beverages over here. I have some red wine, but I have this glass that says "Ain't Life Grape?" And life has been hard. Life has been hard for so many different reasons this past year. But our live stream, our time together, our time with these incredible authors and writers has really brightened it up. We were just chatting about that with our authors for tonight. And speaking of which, our anniversary, our 1 year anniversary
Coming up.
comes up at the end of March, pretty much right after the anniversary of quarantine. And we're planning a special show for that, to celebrate that and, to be, to be announced. But, that's a pretty crazy thing. So there are things in life that are still pretty great, even
What
though,
else you been dipping
things
in there?
are hard. What's that?
What else you been dipping into over there?
Oh, well, I've been dying to share with everyone this adorable little Bailey's strawberries and cream. And I'm sure that this is really selling a lot leading up to Valentine's Day because it's pink. And look how cute. Look how cute. This is not a paid advertisement.
So huge.
I know it. Look, it was massive. I
And
drank it all last night.
that thing down.
I mean, to be honest, like it's definitely the kind of thing that you either love or absolutely hate. I thought it was delicious, so consider that an endorsement from me. Speaking of which, Valentine's Day is coming up, friends, and my props are ready for next week. And so is my red lipstick. Did you know
Wow.
we have a different shade today? Chris, are you going to be? Chris is going to be dressing up as Fabio for
That's right.
our.
I'm gonna do my Fabio routine next week. You know, recreating some classic romance book covers.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah,
It's
so
going to be
between now and
fun.
then, I don't know what's going to happen between now and then. There's going to be some serious surgery and working out. It's going to be happening on my end, but we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, it's definitely it's going to be something to see. It's going to be something to see, and it's going to be something to hear and enjoy because we're going to have Meredith Kaiser
Yep.
and our friends, returning readers, Megan Muldowney, Susan M. Davis, and Philip J. Curtis, as well as a new FUMFA reader joining us, one that hasn't read with us before, Deborah Carr. So,
That's right. It's going to be hot and heavy next week.
whoa.
Right.
So, listen, you have a nice little dinner with your sweetie, or eat some chocolate, grab some wine on your own, and come listen to some beautiful, awesome pieces by some of our great writers. However, it is past 7 o'clock, and we need to give you our official welcome to FUMFA number 40. Tonight we have with us an amazing special guest, poet Nicole Caruso Garcia. And also, we are so excited to have with us FUMFA's own Lone Lee. We're so excited for her to share with us from her book, which is just coming out this upcoming week, and a pho love story. And so we're so excited to hear from both of them. And you know what? Why don't I go ahead and read Nicole's bio for you all? Let me get into that. Okay, Nicole Caruso Garcia is Associate Poetry Editor at Able Muse and a board member at Poetry by the Sea, a global conference. A Pushcart Prize and Best of the Net nominee, she is a past winner of the Willow Review Award. Her full-length manuscript was recently a finalist for the Richard Wilbur Award and a semifinalist for the Anthony Hecht Poetry Prize and Philip Levine Prize for Poetry. Her publications include Atticus Review, Diagram, Crab Orchard Review, Light, Measure, Mezzo Camine, Modern Haiku, One Art, The Orchards, Pank, Plume, The Raintown Review, Rattle, Rhino, Sonora Review, Spillway, and Tupelo Quarterly. And you should visit her online at NicoleCarusoGarcia.com. Awesome.
Excellent.
And Chris, can you read to us about Lone Lee?
I sure can. Lone Lee is the author of A Pho Love Story. That's PHO for those of you who are wondering. It's a YA rom-com debut in which two Vietnamese American teens fall in love, even though their families own rival restaurants. It will be available in hardcover, ebook, and audio on Tuesday. That's 2 days from today, February 9, from Simon & Schuster's Books for Young Readers. NPR calls A Pho Love Story a sweet romance, and Amazon picked it as one of the best YA books for February. Her novels also included in Goodreads, BuzzFeed, and Pop Sugar's most anticipated lists.
Woo!
Booklist wrote, "It's a love letter to Lone Lee's heritage. Readers will experience a gambit of emotions while reading this stirring novel, including hunger, loss, and finally, unadulterated joy." Unadulterated joy. I'm emphasizing that because you don't see that much in book reviews. Lone is also a book editor at Atria Books. That's a Simon & Schuster adult imprint. She graduated from Fairfield University with her bachelor's degree in 2014 and her MFA degree in 2017. In addition to her YA writing, Lone writes adult short stories, mostly ghost stories, which I find very intriguing. I want to talk about that later. And her work has appeared in Craft Literary, Mud Season Review, and more. Visit her website at writerlonelee, LOANLE.com, and find her on Twitter at Lone Loan, Loan.
Thank you so much, Chris. What an exciting night. So much better than the Super Bowl. And
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, Schmooper Bowl. So make sure you have your snacks and your drinks, and we're going to get started right now with Nicole Caruso Garcia. I'm going to bring her up. All right. Welcome, Nicole.
Hello, thank you.
Hey, we're so excited to hear you read. We'll leave you to it.
Okay, thank you. I'm very excited to be here. The poems that I'm going to read tonight really range from very serious to extremely silly and whimsical. Hopefully there's something for everyone. And if any of the poems have a content warning, I will let you know. I'll start off with a familiar topic, which is Snow White. Hopefully something everyone can relate to. The first poem is kind of a hot take on Snow White. It's called Snow White's Plea to the Huntsman. Asleep, I shiver in a silken gown and wait for you to find me in the dark. Don't let me waken, shackled to a crown, too drowsy to resist that royal mark. You saved me once and fooled the wicked queen who craved a lung and liver fricassee. Though served a hoax, she licked her fingers clean. By sparing me your sword, you captured me. Let moonlight vigil lead you to my lips and prove your kiss will break this spell's embrace. The prickly arrows of your cheek eclipse affection from the smoothest princely face. Such knaves can plunder castles, trinkets, art, but only you can breach my fortressed heart. The next poem is called Adrift. And there's nothing graphic in it, but I would say there's a content warning for hate against the LGBTQIA plus community. Adrift. Those homos, mother sneers. Oh, here she goes. Of all the rows, we've parked next to a bumper that offends her. It contends, love makes a family. She mocks it, sighs, and rolls her eyes. For now, I'm spared her lecture's holy fist. The grocery list awaits. She raised me well, yet now her milk has made me ache. Imagining the brimstone on my plate if I weren't straight. She'd go full apoplectic if she knew the work I do at school, the hippie Jesuits who teach my mind to arch, not what to think, but how, the art of why. I want to say, some scholars claim that Michelangelo was gay, although he worked for 7 popes till 88, pried Heaven's Gate ajar from vaulting canopies of gray. Could you still pray beneath the Sistine ceiling if they proved it's men he loved? Would you insist that he was just a perv Did he not serve the Lord as well as any splintered saint? From dark constraint, he rescued figures trapped in marble. When God shaped that man, he knew that earthly hand would paint the grand Creator's hand. Observe the fingertip of God, the thin space left between his hand and Adam's reach, the quiet shout of it. And might that space be freedom? Or is it a wound, like love recoiled? I see God tether Adam with his stare and hold him there, although the gift of spinning Eden waits with all its fruits. But I can't ask her this. The atmosphere back in the car, so hot and still. Cool apples in my lap, like globes of hope. I wanted to read that one because my friend Jackie says she likes it, and she likes the next one too. So I'm going to read this for Jackie. This is called Route 15 Daydream. As I pump my gas along the highway, cars that tunnel out of winter sun zip by like match strikes, quick to reignite the cold. I wonder what they're hurtling toward or from. But none look happy at that speed, as if their breathless joy could not keep up. Yet when I turn away, sun's sudden touch behind my knees revives me, makes me wonder where he is. Perhaps a conference room, speaking in a deep oak business tone to those who will never hear his ape impression. Though the gas is $80, I smile because tonight I'll make him sloppy joes, the kitchen incandescent with our voices. This wind, it isn't always like a jackknife to the heart. If motorists could slow to watch the locomotion of my breath, they'd see his name float out from underneath my hood. A puffy parka so bright red, he teases, calls me Gumdrop. I don't mind. Today, the sky burns blue with alchemy, but they just rocket past as I secure the gas cap, as I shift my weight on frozen rosy tiptoes like some hot coal hopscotch, wishing that the folks who found true love would smile or wave or horn blast. Hallelujah. The next poem is called Annual Giving, and you might relate to it if you're an alumni who gets phone calls and things in the mail about please give money to your alma mater. It does have a content warning because it does deal with rape culture. Annual giving. Don't ask me for an annual donation when I fought daily for my resurrection. What would he have to do to face expulsion? Would he have had to violate your daughter? Would he have had to desecrate your altar? I dropped the class we'd planned to take together. You had a reputation to protect. Rape is a prickly word. Thus, the verdict: responsible for sexual misconduct. You levied sanctions, flimsy, every one, mere inconvenience, hampering his fun. He didn't break a rule. He broke a person. To live off campus senior year? No loss. Kicked off the golf team, no more captain status. Banned from buildings where he had no classes. To see his Judas face kept trauma fresh. His force, the day they nailed our Savior's flesh. And now you call me up and ask for cash. What shepherd says, "Oh, injured lamb, be healed. The wolf is just a dog. He's not expelled. We'll keep him to one corner of the field." Was it because I hadn't told my parents, and his, despite their lack of affluence, hired lawyers? Asked to verify the contents of a file compiled by those strangers. I saw there, held by wire fasteners, a punctured stack of all my love letters. What insult that instead of social justice, your therapist put crayons in my fist. Well, color me an insurrectionist. I'd hoped, yet at the time it had to be enough to know authority believed me. I carried on my studies quietly. I kept high grades while lying in my grave. My shroud I tore to poems, each a votive wick. Oh, oily rag, oh, Molotov. Don't ask for giving when you pardoned taking. Don't sell me snake oil justice for my aching. A punishment needs teeth, and then it's speaking. To what now could my money testify? You found him guilty, yet you just stood by. We threw our caps into the same blue sky. The next poem is a book spine poem, and it was inspired by the very talented poet Jenna Lee. A while back, she posted some of her book spine poems on Facebook that had been published, and I thought, oh, that sounds so fun. I should try that, where you stack up books and their titles each read as one line of the poem. And this is called Nasty Women Poets. American slang, American smooth, nasty women poets startle us anew. Nasty women poets screw calm and get angry. Eloquent rage, paper bullets. Instead of maps, nasty women poets pierce the skin. The word made flesh. Masters of starlight, nasty women poets snake poems into the dark. Every riven thing, equipment for living. Every riven thing becoming light. The next poem is called Have You Ever Been a Victim of Violence? 11 Reasons Why I Don't Check Yes. And it also has a content warning for rape culture. I actually wrote it for my gynecologist. It's dedicated to Dr. Leslie Goldstone Orley. Have you ever been a victim of violence? 11 Reasons Why I Don't Check Yes. 1, because the box, once X'd, can't be undone. 2, because to check the box is like a sadder version of I voted. 3, because I'll disappoint my angel of a gynecologist. She'll ask me, when? And see, I've kept the truth from her for years. 4, because, damn it, I resent the box, just waiting there to ambush me again. 5, because I bristle at the label victim and survivor. Can't win, both dice are loaded. 6, because the waiting room is Starbucks busy. 7, because the box is no confessional. 8, because there is no exorcist on staff. 9, because don't ask me to concede a thing when it's already such a feet in stirrups, flashlight on my cervix kind of day. 10, because of women wearing crowns of thorns far thornier than mine. 11, because what grit I've got, I ration. The next poem is called I Never Fell in Love with You, and it's for my husband. I never fell in love with you. To fall in love implies a lack of choice, as if I were cartoonish, maladroit, and love an open manhole to avoid. To fall suggests a kind of loftiness, that I began in some exalted place and not the airy of my loneliness. To fall like rain or tears or mercury, a pawn of Cupid or of gravity. No, with my grappling hook, I climbed precisely. To fall, kerplunk, is stumbling, imperfection. No, I would brave the hot tar of rejection to wear the ermine cloak of your affection. I built a trebuchet and aimed to sail beyond your moat, over your castle wall. I launched, I soared in love. I did not fall. The next poem is a ghazal, and it's called Sacramento, for Stefan Clark, who died March 18th, 2018. And there's a content warning for police brutality. Sacramento. Tongues of gunfire pierced the darkness in Sacramento. A body camera, a body lifeless in Sacramento. Cradled by the grass of his grandmother's yard, a man lay weaponless in Sacramento. How thick the night when mercy did not look or could not find this man's address in Sacramento. Justice washed her hands of it. A man condemned by 20 bullets, not one less, in Sacramento. Suspend the officers, investigate, yet what could bring redress in Sacramento? And so we learn they shot him in the back, uncuffed their fear, anonymous in Sacramento. Who now will give his kids their daily bread? 2 young ones, fatherless in Sacramento. Let the little children come to me, sweet Jesus. Witness this in Sacramento. The next poem is a Sijo, S-I-J-O. It's called Sijo for Two Sparrows. And I'm happy to say that it will be appearing in an upcoming issue of One Art online. Two sparrows are beak deep in tire-flattened rest-stop French fries, more or less content to peck an ecstasy of sun-warmed trash here beside the Jersey Turnpike, when they could fly anywhere. This poem is called Nesting Doll. In a junkyard that isn't mine, I am busy organizing when a woman calls to me for help. Her voice urgent says the man's arrival is imminent. Within the dumpster, I find a natural beauty, dead ringer for Emily Blunt, dressed like a model from the J. Jill catalog. Off-the-shoulder sweater in pale sky blue, slim pants, a dangerous white. She lounges in a refrigerator box, pristine, as if in repose on a divan. Her feet are bare and immaculate. She explains matter-of-factly what the man in the dark suit will do to her. She demonstrates what direction she should be facing for all manner of degradation, as if she has performed the ritual countless times. She offers that if X is not possible, improvised Y will suffice. Since I'm the only one there, she is counting on me to ensure that this transpires. I listen to discern my role, waiting to learn why she needs my help with this foregone conclusion. Why I am neither sentry nor witness, just the guarantor for choreography tidily contained within the box. So I have a couple of jiggery pokery poems. And the first one is called Twitter Permanently Bans Donald Trump Online Menace. Higgledy-piggledy, President Narcissist brags in his tweet storms and boasts on the tube. Normal folks master the art of the humble brag. Pseudo-humility lost on this boob. The J stands for jackass. Higgledy-piggledy, Donald J. Dunce Captain flushes true facts down his golden commodes. How can we sleep when they've given a guy who is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs nuclear codes? And the last poem that I will read is called Is This Your Cow? After 100 Days Learning German on Duolingo.com. And if you've ever used an online program to try to learn another language, maybe you can relate to this. When I was trying to learn languages such as Spanish, it would give me very normal sentences like, the bank is closed on Monday. But when I tried to learn German for an upcoming trip that never happened due to the pandemic, I found I got some really strange sentences. So this poem is constructed entirely of sentences and phrases that Duolingo taught me in my first 100 days of learning. Is this your cow? Your cow is pretty. I like your shoes. Do you like me? I bring strawberries and wine. The garden is not beautiful. I eat the potato because I like potatoes. This vegetarian does not like me. Questions are great. Is it my turn? How many children do you have? How much wine do they drink? Are these your pants? Either yes or no. When is a man a man? Your oranges are big. Why is it so small? Is that a button? A bee! The man is not sad. He is never sad. He drinks a lot of beer. The man has a spider. No woman likes him. I like him since he is paying for the food. I do not wear any clothes. I am not wearing anything. I am normal. I have many fans. I am drinking and you are paying. The beer is weak. The bear is strong. You do not know the bear. I know him through a friend. The bear is wearing her dresses. The shoes do not fit. A bee! We are not men, all women. The girls are not sad. My tool, please. The women like the tools. That is not a toy. I do not know these people. Are they your fans? Your babies. We are playing without you. A bee! You are not funny. Nobody likes that. The cat is funny. He runs as soon as he sees you. You are weak. You are heavy. You are slow. You learn nothing. This bed is cold. The house has no roof. No, it is not easy. That is not a garden. Nobody plays. No one speaks. No one is good. And if he hears you, the enemy is weak. We do not see the enemy. We are running even though we are tired. We see the trees. We see the sun. As long as we are fast, we run. I am alive. I know that. Without you, I am nothing. It is a garden without flowers. The wind is cold. We have no bread. The sky is falling. Thank you.
Nicole, thank you so much for that absolutely incredible reading. I just want to give you applause that you can hear right now.
Oh, thank you.
A whole spectrum of feelings. Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous poems. So powerful, at times funny, at times just absolutely exhilarating. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. And of course, later on, tonight you'll have to go read all of the comments and the love that you've gotten on Facebook and on YouTube. And everybody keep in mind your questions for Nicole during our Q&A later. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you, Katie.
All right. And we're going to bring up Lonely. Welcome, Lone.
Hi. Thank you for
Hi.
having me.
Yes, we are so excited to have you, and congratulations once again on your book, A Fond Love Story, coming out 2 days.
2 days, yeah. It's
Awesome.
unbelievable.
Yes. All right, we'll leave you to it. Excited to hear you.
Great. Hey, well, thank you, Nicole, for reading. I really enjoyed it. So I will read an excerpt from my novel, which is, as Katie said, is coming out in 2 days. It's called A Love Story, and it's a teen, a YA romance or rom-com that's about first love, family, and food. And it stars 2 Vietnamese American teens who find love and friendship, even though they're families own rival restaurants in California. So I'm going to read the first few chapters. And it's from 2 perspectives. So Bao, which is the male character, and then Lin is the next character. There's going to be some Vietnamese in my book because my book is, it's entrenched in Vietnamese American culture. So I hope it's okay. Okay. Chapter 1, Bao. Hoisin sauce is not paint. We need a sign that says that because our customers don't get it. Today's latest work is a misshapen star on the wall. A 5 out of 10 if you ask me. The kid's parent probably did a double take, snatched the bottle away, then paid the check and left before May could notice. To be honest, it's not like the sauce makes our wall look worse. It's just hard to wipe off when it dries. But I try, I really do. Sometimes, maybe. Various relatives from both sides of my family judge me from their water-stained portraits that hang around the restaurant. I sit down and look ahead at the 5 booths I still need to wipe clean, but this heat's unbearable, and the main fan, the good fan, died last night. Break time. I brush off grains of rice that cling to my apron. Later, I'm sure I'll find a few that somehow end up under my socks at the end of each shift. On the other side, my best friend Viet goes at the same pace as me. His ears are plugged up, probably to block out the Paris by Night-like soundtrack, blasting from the back room, songs and repeats about the Vietnam War, love, war, poverty, war. Viet is the most chaotic neutral person I know. On any other day, he wastes his time by raving about the latest criminal investigation show he's gotten hooked on. I consider that a trade-off. He's the one who suffers through my fascination with strange words. Once I was wiping down a front window from the inside, unknowingly overriding his work and adding more street word to begin with. I had been mentioning the word defenestrate, which made him calmly threaten me with that very word. My father, Ba, stands behind the counter, punching in numbers at the cash register, then piercing receipts onto a spindle. I think he finds the routine satisfying. The front door opens, the bell shattering the slowness in the restaurant, ushering in more sticky hot air. My mom's voice whips 2 other lingering task waiters to attention, and I snatch up the towel and wipe off bean sprouts, leafless stems of herbs, and straw wrappers shaped as tiny accordions. My mom charges across the room. Maya drops her plastic shopping bags in the path toward the kitchen, a storm on her face. Everyone clears the way for her. They know Maya's mood. But my dad's expression is as indifferent as his look in their wedding pictures from the 2000s. Stone cold. My mom slaps down a crumpled piece of paper before him. An, do you know what they're doing across the street? Without looking up, he's speaking to his calculator. My dad asks, did you get more sriracha sauce? On my way back, I saw those ugly posters all over the place. My dad just says, there was a sale. Did you get them on sale? It's always like this. Their conversation misaligned, a not much to a how are you question. Lampposts, windows, all over Bolsa Avenue, my mom says. Glass shatters in the back room. The line cooks start blaming each other, Spanish and Vietnamese mingling together. My guess? Ben did it. That guy sucks at his job more than me. May ignores the noise. 2 for 1. 2 for 1 bowl of pho. Only one family can get her riled up like this. She pauses. They're trying to steal all of our customers. Why isn't unworried? Bass snorts. Their pho not good. Never have enough salt. Now that I can't verify. I've never stepped foot into the Mai's restaurant because what happens? Apparently my mom will cut my legs. Maybe they had one of the waiters pose as a customer. My mom nods, dialing back her worry. After a moment, she says, 2 for 1 pho. Huh. Who wants to have pho lack? She laughs at her own joke about the other restaurant's pho's blandness. Bad joins. Lately, my parents' preoccupation with the Mai's has ratcheted, probably because they keep on hearing about the changes that other families have been making, changes that seem to be in direct response to our adjustments. We'd recently added new wood grain blinds that block out the sun, just because it looks like they replaced theirs, too. My mom zeroes in on me. She side-eyes my table. Why are the tables so dirty? I'm not finished yet, I said. Why not? He's done. May points to the opposite side. I look across the room at my best friend Viet and blink. The tables are shining and the mirrors are fingerprintless and yes, poisonless. Kids like an Asian flash. Oh, come on, I mutter. Yoi wa, she says to the trader. Come on, Viet answers, saying his thanks without a trace of an accent, even though he was born here. My mom turns back to me. Hurry up, she jabs a finger at me, and fix your hair. It's so messy. but I can't help it. My hair has a mind of its own. The poster that my mom showed my dad floats to the ground in her wake. Curious, I pick it up, passing by my best friend. Making sure my mom's a good distance away, I elbow him. Suck up. Viet lands a punch to my stomach. Lazy, he says. I pretend not to die. He's always been stronger than me. Viet goes into the back room, and I look down at the flyer. I'm not sure how anything like this can be considered ugly. It's awesome. There's no other word for it. Just really cool, some kind of collage of old and modern Vietnam. A woman wearing a traditional silk white dress and a rice hat, winking at a camera. You can see the sun in the beach line, reminding me of Nha Trang, my parents' hometown, blazing behind her. An airplane flying above the woman spells out in the clouds, "Oh my Pha, 2 for 1 deal." But this kind of advertising from the Mize family, my parents should be worrying about our advertising. We don't have a Lynn on our team. I glance out of the window. As if this poster summons her, Lynn appears from Larkin Street's direction. She rushes into the restaurant, her flyaway hair alive, her large canvas bag, which she hauls everywhere, hitting her long legs. Over the entrance, below a pagoda roof, hangs a South Viet flag just like ours, yellow with 3 red stripes, and it flutters in greeting to Lynn. She's always a colorful blur, going to class, dashing down La Quinta's hallway when the bell lets out, running into the restaurant at 3:30 p.m. I see her, but I know close to nothing about her. Maybe it's a good thing she's constantly moving, because if she ever stopped, we might have to talk to each other. And we haven't done that since we were kids. Hypothetically, a Buddhist temple is not a place for insult or threats or a potential bloodbath. I've gone to temples sporadically throughout my life, but the day I met Lynn is the most memorable for many reasons, aside from running into the rest of the Mize and being this close to seeing blood shed before our Buddha. Before meeting Lynn, I'd never seen another 7-year-old kid stab paper with a crayon, repeatedly. We were in the kids' room where the Jules volunteers babysat kids as the parents went to worship or at least had a moment of silence. Mine were catching up with friends upstairs. There were tables with finger paint, macaroni, glue, and paper, and another table with crayons and markers. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was less work, but I went for the crayons. The other kids sat so far away from Lynn because they were afraid she might turn on them. But the look on her face was calm and concentrated, satisfied even, and when she made sure all the crayons were completely dull, she raised her white paper in triumph. I was closest to her, so she showed it to me. The dots formed a complete picture. Green grass, a yellow sun, and a red and blue swing set. Wow, I said, like any 6 to 8-year-old Asian kid with a bowl cut would say. It's the playground at my school, she answered proudly. Can you draw Spider-Man? Because back then, that was the only thing that mattered to me. Maybe, she says. I can't remember what he looks like. I need something to look at. I answer, I have it. I have one. I brought along my Spider-Man backpack, but it was upstairs in a cubby with our shoes. We raced out of the room, escaping the volunteers who didn't really try to stop us. Up on the main floor, the temple membership was serving bowls of pho dai, and a white-haired lady waved us over for a bowl of vegetarian soup. Lynn took hers with everything that my family always taught me to use: hoisin sauce, Thai basil, and bean sprouts. That told me she knew pho. She came from pho. It was confirmed when we both tried the noodle at the same time and said, ew. Salty as hell. We left our bowls quick, then moved on to our destination. Running, that's what I remember. I was chasing a girl I barely knew, but I really wanted that Spider-Man drawing. Before we could get to my backpack, though, my mom's sharp voice rang out, the one that still summoned centuries worth of furious Vietnamese women. I froze. Our family stood on opposite sides of the room, where Buddha was at the center, accepting gifts and praise from visitors. Lynn and I were caught in the middle. I waited for Buddha to come alive, chime in like a referee, and bellow while the ground vibrates forcibly. Ready, set, fight. But nothing like that happened. Lynn's mom took one step forward, like she was marking her territory. And mine said, "Good night." I thought she was angry at me for running in a temple. I couldn't say no, And when I was with her again, she gripped my hand tight. My dad, Bab, hung back, and I remember being confused by the fury barely contained on his face, so different from his usual passivity. After that, they all but dragged me and Lynn away from each other, and we've never spoken since. You still haven't finished your tables. Baz's voice, my dad, from the front desk, snaps me out of my memories. I'm still standing by the windows, but I notice the sky is a bit darker and the lampposts are starting to turn on. The din of inside chatter fills my ears. Why do you have that flyer? He asks. Sorry, I say. I was thinking of how ugly it looked. May's right. I walk to the nearest trash can, hand poised over it. The story of me, Lynn, at the temple could have been kept as a carefree memory, lost and dusty like an old book in the basement. And I did actually forget about it. She was just one of many kids I'd run around with and never saw again. Best friends for an hour or two, instead of forever. Lynn's family opened their restaurant across from us 5 years ago, and I knew it was her. I knew she still drew because she carried her portfolio with her everywhere, the size of it almost as big as her body. I also knew that I couldn't go anywhere near her without risking my mom's wrath. Disdain was clear in my mom's voice whenever she talked about that restaurant, as if it was a person. I heard that restaurant underpays its staff. That restaurant is connected to a gang. They just moved from San Jose, after all. That restaurant blackmailed Baxter, pushed him out of his business. That last reason might be why the neighbors accept them so easily at first. Baxter had basically helped the area flourish, connecting fellow business owners with the right people. Beloved, you can say. I don't think my mom's circle of friends made it any easier for that restaurant. Social wolves who ran various businesses in the area. BBQ deli, nail and hair salons, and even one travel agency. Back then, advertising wasn't really a thing, so the good word of one of these women, certified. You either get a yaek or a gunda, the latter being as close to great as you can get in terms of Vietnamese praise. The group is led by Ni Trung, an older woman who constantly likes to brag that her name bears a similarity to one of the female militaries who rebelled against the Chinese domination centuries ago, as I discovered on one sad night on Wikipedia. As if it was supposed to impress people these days. I think of her as the general, though the real life Ni Trung was the general's daughter. My mom had the general had a special reason for hating the Mais. She'd always liked Sun's spot and said it'd gotten the most traffic. I bet she was planning to go right for it when the first opportunity came up. Luckily, gossip changes and some attention spans are short. Now the Mais restaurant has become a fixture just like ours. But that doesn't stop my mom's competitive streak. My parents, my mom really, have now perfected the art of non-encounters, knowing the opposite family's schedule right down to when they close and when they leave. In a way, their schedule has become ours. We're background characters in each other's stories. As I look at the poster in my hands, though, I wonder if it's possible for us to change up our scripts. What would happen if our families came face to face with each other, like that last time at the temple? What would me and Lynn say to each other? Tại sao mày đứng đó vậy? Sorry, I shout to my mom, back to work. I fold up Lynn's poster and pocket it, not knowing why. And then this is chapter 2 from Lynn, the female protagonist in the story. Maybe I just won't take the SATs again. Maybe I'll just drop out right now and become the next best American novelist. I give my best friend Allison my "you're annoying me again" look, since this is the first time she's interrupted me as I worked on my latest sketch. Come on, Allie. No, really, what's the point of the SATs? There's no real-life application that we can get here. My best friend twirls her curly hair with a finger. Her foot hits my left ankle, and your legs are in my space again. I fold them just a bit more, but there's not much I can really do in this booth. You're going to be fine, Allie. Their scores were fine the first time around, so what if your math scores aren't perfect? They're still great, and you'll ace the writing part, Mrs. Editor-in-Chief, I know it. And you're going to ace it all, because you're Lynn fucking Mai, Allie says. She pretends to take an angry slurp of her café soda, condensation leaving a puddle next to her. Since middle school, we've always had iced coffee to get us through the mountain of homework we've had. Senior year just started, but I already feel as if I'm buried. Some of my coffee spills onto the table, soaks the edges of my cream-colored sketch pad. I don't clean it up. Mrs. Yamamoto is in my head, saying, if you want to be an artist, you'll need to get messy. I focus on my sketch instead. Downtime at the restaurant is a nice time to draw. The empty seat next to me balances my Prismacolors. My eraser, an ugly blend of all the colors I've been using, sits beside them. The sketch isn't going that bad. The assignment, draw your memories. Instructions? Why the hell should I tell you what to do? Or at least what my teacher Yamamoto always says to our class. I'm drawing a beach scene, remembering the first time Ba taught me how to float on my back, and where my mom taught me how to cook with sand, or play make-believe. As I dug concave dents into the sand, poured water into them to make banbeo, a sweet steamed treat you can hold in the palm of your hand and eat. My older sister Evelyn stayed under the shade of our umbrella, reading, of all things, a book about the human skeleton. So guess who's now majoring in biology at UC Davis? The tip of my colored pencil breaks as I shade an area under my beach umbrella. What is it? Allie says, reaches over her SAT book to touch the picture, but I quickly slap her hand away. Jesus, you're a beast when you're drawing. You know that? I pull back my sketch pad. It's not ready yet, I tell her. And it won't be if I keep losing focus or let Allie distract me with her talking. That's what she does best. Luckily, I'm used to it. Allie is a fixture in the restaurant after school, and for years it was me and her. Nothing really changed until you count the fact that Allie is more brave when she steals the last egg roll with me. Always shooting me an impish grin. There was a time last year when her parents were going through a divorce, and as strong as she was, home was more like a battlefield. The divorce simply happened, and everything's more stable now. She's back to being Allie, who likes my artwork so much that she always has to take a peek at it. She says that one day we're going to dominate the world, her as a writer and me as an artist. What's with your dad today? She asks, tipping her chin toward the front of the restaurant, where Ba takes up his own booth. The light from the front window streams in, turning his normally salt and pepper hair a blinding white. He's writing the checks for the week, but keeps looking at the Wings restaurant right across the street. Best guess is that he's keeping an eye on them. He's weird like that. The Wings cannot see him. My dad isn't the most discreet person or the stealthiest. Every part of him, his walk, his breathing, makes noise. My mom, though, is the opposite. She slips in and out of any social gathering, from any room, any conversation, like a ghost. But she's loudest when she's cooking. The spices and flavors of our pho, boom ba, and boom reel are her way of announcing I'm here. Our plan to do a 2-for-1 deal combines Ba's talent for advertising and May's cooking, or so my dad claims. But I'm already dreading the flood of people who come. We're understaffed as it is. We've had to say goodbye to 3 servers who are seniors off to college. We hired replacements, but not one of them seems like they'll last. Before I realize it, Ba appears at our table. He sets down a plate of hot, crispy egg rolls that May sent out from the kitchen. My friend Allie oohs like she hasn't eaten a gazillion in the lifetime we've known each other. Gamang Ba, I say, thanking him. He reaches for my sketch, appraises it. Gong be na ha? He asks evenly. I nod and he dips his chin in acknowledgement. I know he sees I can draw. He wouldn't have asked me to make the flyers if he didn't at least approve of my work. Did you do your homework yet? Yeah, Ba. Ba nods, satisfied, and walks back into the kitchen. There used to be a time where I brought home every single art project in elementary and middle school, and they would take it, hang it up. A picture of flowers in a vase still hangs in the kitchen, by the in-and-out door. I knew they were proud. But high school is different. In my freshman year, regulars would come in daily, updating my parents on their kid who went to Harvard or won a prestigious award or graduated with honors or bought them a house. This was when my parents really started paying attention to my grades, the ones that actually mattered and could get me into a good school. Toward the end of junior year, I brought home a physics exam that I aced, and it was only because I studied without sleeping, abandoning any art project I had at the time, because the test was just worth too much. My mom had mentioned it to a regular customer who mentioned a niece who was good at physics and now works as an engineer. Somehow, that idea has stuck, and my parents have been pushing engineering as a path for me ever since. I'd never seen them look so eager. My parents don't usually ask for favors from regulars, or their parents, or their friends. Here's how it goes. If something is broken in the restaurant and a friend offers to fix it, they protest. That same friend shows up with the toolbox anyways, and my parents would let them in. When all things are fixed, my parents offer to pay them, but the friend protests and argues all the way out to the door. In that case, an envelope of money might mysteriously end up under their doormat or in a pocket of their jacket might hang up inside the restaurant. But my parents pulled a favor when Evie was deciding between schools, and they called a few friends to help. This time they used up another favor, arranging a coffee meeting with a niece who was an engineer. They tell me it's a chance to ask questions and learn about my future. How could they know? Gong, back calls for me. He's halfway into the kitchen, but he gestures to the front, where a family of 4 are waiting to be seated. I slip into my role as waitress, something I've done since freshman year and even before that. When we just opened the restaurant, I remember tagging along with other servers, armed with my own notepad and pen, or was it a crayon? And the customers indulged me with smiles. Table 4? No problem, just follow me. I lead the family to one of the tables until Jonathan, the most competent of our new hires, easily swoops in. I slip back into my booth with Allie. She's chewing on the end of her pencil, stuck with an article she's writing. It kills my parents now to have my trip away instead of at home. My sister was always the better server out of us, calm and cool under service, orderly. My mom never had to ask her to fill up the napkin dispensers or the bottles holding different sauces because they were probably already filled by her. And she's definitely more charismatic than Allie with the other customers. It's unsaid, but I know in the way they ask after my sister that some longtime customers must be disappointed to have me replace her. Me, who would much rather be in my head or in front of a canvas. They tell my parents how proud they should be of her. She'll be a doctor in no time, these customers say fondly. Then they look significantly at me. Maybe you can be the same, they tell me. Perhaps in other families it would have worked out. I think I'm going overboard actually, so I'll stop here.
No, you have 2 more minutes, Lone. We want to hear more.
Whoa, that was okay. Okay.
If you want to.
Yeah, I think I don't know if there's a good place to stop.
Okay.
I think I said enough.
That's totally fine. Absolutely love it, Lone. We're so excited for you. Applause. Just
I can tell this is
absolutely
one of those
fabulous.
books that's going to make me like really hungry.
I know. I was already like, I want to get some. I need to get some pho.
Highly
Fabulous.
recommend.
Go ahead. Okay, thank you so much. Just switching over our little banner here. Thank you so much, Lone Lee, for reading from your incredible book, A Fun Love Story, coming out on Tuesday. Just absolutely delightful. I'm fully in this story. I could have just gone on forever. And thank you so much also to Nicole Caruso Garcia for your incredible reading. Everybody get your questions up into the chat. Chris and I will get started with a question we usually ask first to our amazing guest writers. And that is, how has it been going for you in this crazy last year of, social distancing, quarantining? How has it affected your writing? Are there any silver linings? How have you been doing with it? And we'll get started with Nicole while you're writing in your questions. Nicole, go ahead.
I don't know that the pandemic has really affected my writing that much. And also it's kind of hard to separate out the other things that have been going on.
True.
So like, how much do I attribute to pandemic? I did write one little pandemic poem, but I know, like, for example, Julie Kane wrote way more pandemic poems.
She did last week. Yeah.
Some people really have like embraced that. For me, like, this year started off, I had some, very physically painful issues with my back. So that threw me for a loop. And then there were a lot of emotionally difficult things, like the death of our friend and mentor, Kim Bridger. Yeah. So, and then you have the election. So like, all those things I feel like factored into my writing, maybe more than the pandemic, like the cento that I wrote for Kim. And then I think as a coping mechanism, I started writing a lot more humor. I really wasn't someone who wrote a lot of humor. And then a few years ago, I took a wonderful humor writing workshop at Poetry by the Sea with Melissa Balmain. And it was so inspiring to write funny stuff. So then this year, I think I wrote maybe a dozen jiggery pokery poems. And that's like my coping mechanism for coping.
I love that. I think that's a fabulous silver lining.
Well, some people are stockpiling like cans of beans and toilet paper. I feel like, well, yeah, I'm doing that too. But I've been kind of stockpiling ideas for poems where I feel like I'm not maybe in a headspace where I can actually fully draft the poem yet. Right. But I'm stockpiling those ideas so that when I get to a place where I feel like I can tackle it, at least I have a go-to box of things.
I know. I really, really know that feeling. Like right now, maybe I need those humor poems. Like those are like ministering to me. But you're kind of saving these for later. That's fabulous, Nicole.
There's like a guilty lining too, not necessarily silver lining. Like, how I don't know if everyone else feels that way too, but like, oh, it's a pandemic. You're sheltering in place. You're so isolated. You should be creating volumes of work. Like there's that feeling. Like, shouldn't you really be hunkering down and writing more, Nicole? Like that.
Oh, no. Yes,
that
That's like so much more free time. It's like, no, I'm doing my same level of work. I'm actually pretty stressed. I'm a little upset about the situation. This doesn't mean I have like all this writing time.
Yeah, you're burning through. Think of like your vitamin levels, your magnesium levels, like all the stuff that you're burning through just to deal with the news and pandemic and being away from friends and family. Like your body is like eating itself.
That's a good way to say it.
It's a trauma.
It is.
It's a form of trauma. I mean, there's going to be a lot of PTSD issues going forward.
Yeah.
Well, I've been fortunate in many regards. Like I have my spouse I'm sheltering in place with him, and he's great. But but not everyone has necessarily someone to lean on.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. What about you, Lon? How has it been?
I mean, to be honest, I think the first 6 months into the pandemic, I did not write. I did not like sit down and write like a full story or anything like that. I think I was more of just grappling with everything that was going on. I was taking notes though. So what you said, Nicole, about like pocketing stuff, I think I was doing that. I was taking notes, jotting down notes, and I was starting to take more walks, and I would write inside my head I was walking. So that eventually became like a soothing activity for me. But yeah, it was difficult because there's a lot of, it feels as if there was like a lot of unsaid, unseen things that were just suddenly said and seen, like they were just lurking. They were always lurking out there, but then with us being sheltered and just everything, it just pushed it to a breaking point. And I think we needed to deal with that first before we can really write or grapple with these things. Which is okay. I think it's perfectly fine. Writing will never really go away. It's here for us. And, I was able to pick it up again after months though, but, yeah.
Absolutely, Lone. And I think we can all relate. We've all been going through this collective traumatic experience. And you're right that it has brought these other things to the surface that need to be said, and that are really being shared for the first time in a in this context. Absolutely.
I'm wondering, Lone, as a you're an editor, so
Yes.
going forward, like how is this pandemic? I don't know. Are you seeing manuscripts? Maybe it's too soon, but is it going to be just like a deluge of pandemic?
Oh, right. Yeah, that's interesting. Yes, that's a good question. I'm sure we'll see that wave of things about disease and dystopia and everything.
Not even
Personally would
that.
not apply for me, since I would hope to just ignore this pandemic and just wipe it from my memory. But I know there's people who are like, I would love to see it.
Right.
I think there's an interesting conversation that was happening about YA literature, because I think the experience for young adults is
Yes,
a little difficult compared to us. I think teens are at this age where they were supposed to graduate from school, hang out with people, like their year before college kind of thing. So they lost a lot of the coming of age activities, and they didn't really, they didn't have the means to express themselves.
right.
So there's a lot of discussion about how there's going to be an actual need for that to be in YA literature, so that these issues can be explored. But I'm sure there's going to be a wave of pandemic fiction. I mean, there are some, but it was more of like manuscripts that were already written before the pandemic, but somehow just strangely predicted a lot of things that were happening now.
Right. That is such a great observation at what you said about the YA writing about the pandemic and how that will really be a need. That's a fabulous observation. I hadn't thought of that, but absolutely, that's going to be necessary. We've got some questions that have come in the chat.
Sure too.
Chris, grab us a question.
Okay, this is also for Lone from our friend Joanna Myers.
Yes. Who was the guest last week?
I want to add on to this too. Can you please share the editing process of your novel prior to publication? What challenges did you face? I want to throw in there the fact that you are an editor. How did it feel to be edited?
Okay. Yes. I actually was able to turn off my brain as an editor. I was writing. I think it's really important whenever you're working on something to not judge yourself too harshly. Well, actually, I think the first time when I was writing it, my brain was like, oh, this word is just, this sentence poorly worded. You have to cut it out. I was screaming at myself. But I kind of eventually felt and realized that creativity really has to take the charge. It really has to, you have to write with your heart first and then your head second. So not head first, but heart first. So I was writing it out, and then really when I wrote the whole entire manuscript, that's when I looked at it as an editor. So the way that I edit and also edit for other authors is that I do rounds, basically. I do a big structural edit where I would find big things that might need rewriting, like character setting, like the character motivations, and then setting, and then some plot events that need to be moved around.
Awesome.
So I looked at it from a very broad point of view, just everything in the story. I never looked at how pretty my writing was until the second round, the second round is the line editing portion. And that's when you really go deep into your lines and making sure the grammar and there's no typos. So that's when you really polish things up in the second round. And that's what I did. And that's what I do as an editor. So what challenges so first I was definitely going as an editor instead of a writer, which is different. And then Chris, to your question about what was the experience like being edited, I loved it. I am not impressed with my writing at all. When someone gives me feedback, I listen to it. I listen to it really, and I consider it. And most of the time I take it, but sometimes I think I know within myself as a writer, there's this instinct that maybe their suggestion might not work for the story that I have in mind. So my editor was so awesome. She is incredibly nice with her edits, and I think I learned so much from her, because you have to remember, like, as an editor,
Such a
when
great
I was just starting
experience to
out,
go through. Yeah.
when I first started out, I think I was like I was thinking I wanted to help them, so I would point out negative things, a lot of negative things, and just like tell them, like, suggest ways to improve it. But then, my editor would she would obviously give me some critical feedback, but then she would like pepper it, being like this part, this is where you really succeeded, this is where you did it really well. So she was going between praise and then critique, and it was such a good balance, and I love it.
So now
I don't mind being edited at all. I love it.
So now you as an editor, did it change how you work as an editor? Like you're gonna
Yes. Yeah.
pepper things with some positives a little more.
Praise. Yes. I remember the writer's poor heart, because my heart, I understand their heart, and what it's like to be a writer, and how you're writing for a long time alone. You're hiding your work, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
And you're you're protective of it. So I definitely learned that just remember the writer. Remember that this is obviously their story, and your comments, they should always be there to improve it, never to take away from it, never to take over. So
absolutely. And I'm so that's such an awesome process, and I can totally identify with what you're saying, Lone, about it, really enjoying that process. Like, this has been in my head, this has been with me this whole time, and now someone else is reading it and thinking about it, getting into it, and giving me feedback that they think is going to improve it, but also like praise. It's so exciting once it's in someone else's hands, and they're in that world with you. And, as a poet, it can be sort of a different thing, because often you are organizing it in a different way. You don't maybe have that same experience of like going to an editor with like a big story manuscript. And I'd love to, we do have other questions coming in, but I would love to ask you, Nicole, about how is your editing process? When you're working on a poem, do you reach out to friends? Do you reach out to people like editors of literary journals, or are you kind of reaching into that community to get feedback before you send it out, or do you just send it straight out? How does it work for you as a poet, Nicole?
I'm very fortunate in that I belong to an in-person writing group that meets faithfully every 4 to 6. Well, it's not in person now; it's Zoom based.
But everything.
For the past, I'd say 5 years or so, through someone that I met at Connecticut Writing Project, actually at Fairfield U, when I was there one summer, he invited me to a writing group that has been meeting for at least the past 30 years.
Incredible.
And they are such a lovely bunch of people, and so depending on who can make it to the meeting, it might be like somewhere between 5 and 7 of us for a quorum. And it's nice to have a deadline, number one, like, oh, I gotta, tomorrow is my group. I have to write something.
Push it forward.
to bring something there to writers whose writing you is just amazing and you respect and admire. And so you get such wonderful feedback. And 99% of the time, you're taking the feedback. And that has been hugely instrumental. I always say I wouldn't have even finished my manuscript if it weren't for them, or it would have taken me another decade, right? So bringing it to people. And before I had that group, for example, when I was teaching at Trumbull High School, some of my friends there, I would do what I call the drive-by. I'd just be like, hey, you want to take a look at this poem? I wanted to at all, but we're too nice to say no. So I would just kind of fling it in people's general direction, or sometimes I would email it to a poet friend of mine, or we'd have a little correspondence, you send me something, I'll send you something. I mean, it's so important to get an outside view, because after you've been so caught up in the draft, you're looking at it like this. You can't even see it anymore. You need fresh eyes, because even putting it in a drawer for a few months, you're still the poet. You're not going to be able to look at it with fresh eyes.
Yeah.
But the group has been a godsend.
That is so great, and that's really inspiring to me. I've been wanting to get to be a part of something like that, and we share a mentor, Kim Bridgeford, amazing woman, and it's a strange moment to realize I won't be able to share things with her anymore, but there is a tremendous community out there, and there are different groups to be a part of, and just taking advantage of that and things like deadlines within those contexts, it pushes you forward, and it's really good. I'm inspired by that. And
There's
before
also Eratosphere. Have you Eratosphere online associated with Able Muse? I mean, they've got at least, I'd say, 7,000 members globally, and you post your poem and you get feedback and you give feedback. So I had done that for a while before I had found my in-person group locally. They were also great.
Thank you for the recommendation. That is really so great. And don't we all need like a little bit more of something like that, especially right now where we can't just go into people, and go out as much. All right, we've got another question up here for Lone. It says maybe a scandalous question, but since you switched perspectives between Bao and Lynn, is there a perspective you prefer to narrate from? Ooh, it's interesting.
Scandal. Let's see. I love both of them very much. I think it was easier to get into Lynn's perspective because she kind of knew like she knew right away that she wanted to be an artist. Like that's her. She was very driven towards that goal. And for me, similarly, like I didn't really always knew that I'd be a writer, but I knew that I was on a certain path, and I embraced it, and now here I am.
Right.
I think I really felt her emotion of like wanting to do something so badly and knowing that there's a lot against her.
Right.
I felt it so deeply, and I really love her passion for her art. Like she just loves it so much. There's like this line in the book. I think it's still in the book, hopefully, I'm not really sure. But it was like saying like how her art gives her the silence that she needs. And for me, that's what writing is too. Like I feel the same way as her, that art writing gives you the silence. So I think I connected in that way, that our passions for art are the same in a way. It's just different medium. But then Bao was also like really lovable and adorable. I enjoyed
Did you say adorable?
He's adorable, he's more unsure than Lynn, of course, but he finds his way. But he was adorable. Yeah.
I like that word adorable. I need to use that. That's like, I love that.
Great.
We have a question for Nicole from Philip J. Curtis, one of our favorite poet friends and special guests. He said, great visual on Snow White. What made you come up with the idea as well as the voice that you used for the piece?
I guess I just in general, the Snow White story, I found it creepy that, just the guy rescues you, then you've got to like jump on his white horse and marry him. I don't know. I think I wrote it. I can't remember if I wrote it before or after. I was working with some students on thesis, and I tried to come up with a wild thesis because I wanted them to see how it had to be something arguable. So I said, okay, Snow White is a sexist story that perpetuates the myth that women are these like naive, vulnerable creatures who require rescue by men, and that rescue often has a price. I mean, not even the dwarfs let her stay there for 3. They're like, well, if you cook and clean, you can stay. Yes. I mean, so, and I don't know, just, I like the ruggedness of Huntsman a little more. He actually did her a solid. I mean, he carved out the heart and the lungs and liver of a stag so that the queen would eat that, and he spared her life. It's like, what did the prince do for her? He's just like, mwah, you're mine now. Jump on my horse. You can become. It seems a little bit like non-consensual if you're like passed out in a glass coffin and not conscious. And some guys like, what this woman needs is a smoocheroo from me. fine. It's like, it just kind of didn't sit right with me. Not that any of the other Grimm fairy tales do, where, you know, they're clothes and heels and Cinderella, but it just seemed like if Snow White were me, the prince would not be my jam. It would more be like the Huntsman or the Woodsman, as some people call him.
Yes.
I guess I just went from there.
That's great.
So I don't know if it was like a certain moment that made me come up with it, but just kind of pondering the fairy tale, like, wait, what?
I love that. And I love, you know, reconsidering these fairy tales and these kind of stories we've been told, like, oh, this is so wonderful and romantic. It's like, but is it? And we really need to change. We really need to change the way we're thinking about these things as a society and in our literature and all of that.
The asshole on the horse. It's like, so there's this guy with an axe, and maybe he's got a little stubble, and he lives in the, you know, he's a huntsman, but like, maybe reconsider this whole prince thing. It's just
yeah. All right, we've got one more for Lone up here, and then we'll need to ask our famous last question. This is from Rachel Bosch. Hey, Rachel.
Oh, hi, Rachel.
Yes, Rachel says, I've read a story of yours in which you had a terrific child character, and this novel is told from the perspective of two teens. Can you talk about writing from the perspectives of those younger characters?
Yes.
The joys, freedoms, challenges that are involved.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Rachel. Hi. So let's see. I think at first I was kind of worried of not doing justice for teenage voices. I think there's always this like idea that teenagers are vain and like maybe they just think about relationships and I don't know, that they don't have a lot going up there sometimes. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have said that. Some people don't. Obviously, I disagree. So I wanted to make sure that the voices are authentic, that they are, you know, real breathing people who are going through so much change in so like a short amount of time. So I think I was worried of not doing that. I didn't want to give them a voice that just made them a stereotype or something like that. I wanted to really give them a three-dimensional world, you know, worldview, you know. So I wanted to be really careful. I think it was such a fun experience because teenagers also tell it as it is. Like they don't really hide behind subtext, which is what, you know, I was writing adult story. I am writing adult short stories, and there's a lot of times where I would try to hide things, like make sure people find out later or something like that. But, you know, for them, they are, when they feel something, they say it. So I think I love the freedom of that, of say it as it is, say it as plainly as you can. So that was really freeing. And then I also I was just thinking about, you know, seeing myself on page 2, if that makes sense, of when I was a teen. I don't think I was really concerned with like popularity and things like that. I was actually worried about like who I would be in the future. And so that's why these characters are worried about that. They have a lot going against, but they go on this wonderful journey of self-discovery, and they also like fall in love with each other, but they fall in love with themselves, which I think is a really important thing that I think every person has to remember. You know, you're just as strong as an individual as you are as a couple or a pair or a partner or whatever. So yeah, self-love, self-discovery, all good.
I love that. And that's and there's just something so kind of exciting about that. I mean, there's something just inherently pleasing, at least to me, about just the rom-com genre, but also just about that time in life where everything is exciting, but also stressful, and everything is changing, and how you're discovering these things about yourself and your connection to others. And I'm, you know, excited to, you know, see what else is going to happen in the story when I get a hold of the book. Absolutely. But before we finish up tonight, we have a famous last double question for both of you. Some things to leave our audience with. Chris, would you do the honors?
What is this?
Part one of the questions is just pearls of wisdom. We ask for pearls of wisdom for writers, right? So Lone, you're an editor, so you probably, on a regular basis have to dole out pearls of wisdom.
And Nicole's a teacher as well, so doling out pearls as well.
Any teacher who's working with young writers, right? You gotta do it. But like, what's the first thing for Nicole, for a young poet, Lone, for a fiction writer coming up? That's the first part. Second part is give us a book recommendation and anything that it floats your boat. So let's start with Nicole.
So for book recommendations, it kind of depends on if you're talking about like poetry to read or craft, but I have some suggestions. For craft, I loved A Poet's Craft.
Nice.
Comprehensive Guide to Making and Sharing Your Poetry by Andy Finch. It's really big. It's a beast of a book, but I read it cover to cover. It's one of the most useful books on craft.
Nice.
And then in terms of poetry to read, both of these came out in 2018. One is Everybody's Vaguely Familiar by Jack Powers.
I love that title.
The other one is Confessions of a Barefaced Woman by Allison Joseph. And both of these, I find myself, I'm trying to get it in my camera here.
Yeah,
I find myself returning to both of these because the voices ring so true in them, and the poems are generous and inspired, and they invite you to inhabit them.
Nice.
So, like in Jack's book, you'll get such great poems as Being a Dick, about, when someone gets your name wrong and keeps calling you that, and The God of Stupidity, that's also a great one. And then in Allison's book, you've got the title poem, obviously, and then other poems such as Some of My Best Friends Are White People, or a poem about like buying a bra for the first time. And so I really enjoyed both of those.
Nice.
In terms of advice, it kind of depends on who you're talking to. A newer poet, a more experienced poet. One of the things I'd already mentioned, which is if you can find a group of writers you respect and admire and be in a group with them that's actually committed and gives you deadlines and holds you accountable, that's fantastic. But that's easier said than done because you have to find those people or you have to create the group yourself. But something easier, I would say, is the advice that I received when shopping for a wedding gown also holds true for
I'm fascinated.
which is, honey, try it on. Like, because you can see something on the hanger and think, meh, that's meh, or I don't like it, whatever. You don't know until you physically put it on. So that's the way I try to think of poetic forms, because the one thing that has just been so helpful for me when stuck on a draft, maybe you only have a line or a phrase, and you think, I haven't been able to take this draft anywhere, this idea anywhere, is think, well, what are all the possible forms I can use? What is it? And there are times when I said, well, I don't really like ballads, and then thought, oh my gosh, does this poem want to be a ballad? Or I wasn't really that enamored of sestinas, and then I would look at what the ideas that I had and go, oh my gosh, like,
It works.
I think this needs to be one. So I end up talking myself into things or out of things, and exploring different forms, any kind of form.
Nice.
So and I have fun with it, because then you're learning something new. Like, what if I cut out half the alphabet and tried to write like that? So
I love it.
it's fun.
Try on the dress, honey.
But a lot of newer, lesser experienced writers really don't like forms because I don't know. It's just they want to write free verse, or you have to learn the forms, and now I feel uncomfortable sometimes writing free verse. Like, I want my fence. I need so just try it on. Like, you don't know what it's like on the hanger. It looks like one thing on the hanger, but when you put it on, that's when you can really tell.
I love it, Nicole. Thank you so much for those recommendations and those fabulous pearls of wisdom. And Lone, from you.
So I would actually say if your goal is to be published, you could be a writer without being published. But if you do want to be published, I think you have to get rejected. You have to really put out your work. Collect those rejections, because eventually, if you try hard enough and you take those rejections into consideration and whatever they tell you, I think the rejections will be nicer along the way. I really do. I think I had started out in high school writing horrible things, and then I would submit them and get rejections, and I slowly became numb to the feeling, the sting, you know. So whenever I get rejected now, I don't really care. It's like, okay, cool, I'll move on now. So get rejected, because it probably will turn into an acceptance down in the future.
You develop resilience, and you practice like putting yourself out there.
Absolutely, because also you don't know where people will find you. Like from the perspective as an editor, like we do read a lot of things. Like there's someone who reads a lot of Esquire, like specifically Esquire, and he's a nonfiction editor. But he reads it, and then he might see a piece, and it's like, oh, maybe this writer can do more or something. So I think you should submit, and like if you want to be published, you should submit, because you never know who's watching. If you want to do the traditional path of publishing, which is where I am, I'm Simon & Schuster as an editor. I think an agent is really crucial, because they are often the people who ask the questions you don't want to ask. You for sure. So if you do want a traditional, I think it's easier and an easier way to kind of have the freedom to focus on writing, you as the writer, and then the agent can take care of the business side.
Nice.
For books, for craft, this is like my answer for every craft question, but Hollis Seaman was my freshman, not my freshman,
Hollis!
my first semester mentor, and she gave me a book that kind of changed my life and the way I think about writing and what I was writing as a short story writer. It's called The Art of Subtext by Charles Baxter, and it's a book about writing the things that are unsaid and identifying the things that you can't really see on page until you look for it, or the way that it's like brilliantly together. That's when you would see the message.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about like staging a scene, how the way you stage a scene can really affect the reading of that scene. The inflection, like the way that someone says something, could say a whole lot. So yeah, that's like the book that the Art of Subtext is something that I return to again and again, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alone. Well, I want to give one last really, really big thank you to both of you for being our featured readers tonight, Nicole Caruso Garcia and Lone Lee. Just such incredible readings. We enjoyed them so much, and it was so great to get to chat with you right now. So just an extra round of applause for both of you.
So fun.
Yay!
And the Super Bowl is very boring.
Oh, so boring.
Compared to this.
You can't get this at the Super Bowl, but we're very excited that it's Amanda Gorman, right? A poetess.
That's actually, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
We're all excited for this, especially. But thank you also to our audience watching on Facebook and also YouTube. It will be archived in both places for anyone who was not able to watch live. And we just want to thank you all for joining us tonight.
Yep.
And
next week,
Romance Night. It's going to be good.
Bring the love. Bring the love.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
This was
guys.
amazing.
And congrats again.